So you want to tell me that the Muslim ruler of Jerusalem used his garrison, his army, to abduct 15 Jews and then ask for a huge sum of money ransom from the Jewish community? And that happened in the 17th century in Jerusalem during the Ottoman period, not right now. What's going on over there? Let's check it out.
Jerusalem and the land of Israel were ruled by the Ottoman Empire from the year 1517 to the year 1917.
So here's the deal. The ruler, the Ottoman ruler of the land, was actually not in the land. He was in Damascus, which is in Syria, in South Syria. And he basically let local chieftains and all sorts of officers and soldiers to run different provinces in the land. And those rulers were changing and shifted and reshuffled every year. So they didn't had any motivation to invest any kind of treasure that they got from the population in facilities or any kind of or the benefit of the residents, Arab, Jews or not. And most of their income came from taxation of the Jewish and Christian population. And this is why those communities were specifically targeted, because the Muslim laws didn't allow them to carry any kind of weapon for protection. And also they could not carry, they could not ride horses or camels. So it was very hard for them to move from one place to another, also to move without any protection. The roads were full of road muggers and leech, and it was very dangerous for non-Muslims to move around. They were taxed, and they had to pay a tariff wherever they go. If you want to go from the north to the south, from south to the north, you have to pay a tariff. You want to go from Hebron to Jerusalem, you have to pay money to the local chieftain. So in this specific case, this is an example of how one specific Muslim ruler of Jerusalem really shake down the Jewish community in such a way that it had a 100-year effect on the Jewish community. And the reason that I'm telling you this story is because there is no English version of Wikipedia about this specific ruler. His name is Muhammad ibn Prokh. There is a Wikipedia file on him in Hebrew, the indigenous language of the Jews, but there's none in English. And this is why it's very important that I will tell you this story so you will understand what happened over there.
As you can see, this is a file in Hebrew about this fellow, but there's no file on that in English. Muhammad ibn Prokh became the ruler of Jerusalem and the city Nablus in the year 1625, and he ruled them for 2 years. Now, he was not an Arab. He was a Cherkess Muslim, meaning from the Caucasus area, the area of Georgia and Turkey and Armenia. His father became the ruler of Jerusalem about 20 years before that because he was the guardian of the pilgrim convoys to Mecca. When Muhammad became the ruler of Jerusalem, he murdered all the government of his father and appointed his friends and cousins. That was in the year 1625.
So as soon as Muhammad ibn Prokh became the ruler of Jerusalem, he imposed on the Jewish community a huge sum of money as taxation, and not just taxation, also as he asked for a gift, like very expensive gift for his honor. And the Jews complained to the Damascus Pacha, and they managed after some time, they managed to get him replaced. But at the same time, there was a rebellion by a Druze chieftain in the north of the land, Fakhr ad-Din II, and the Fakhr asked Muhammad ibn Prokh to assist him, and in return to his service, he gave him the rule of Jerusalem again. So Muhammad ibn Prokh got back to Jerusalem, and he came with revenge, unfortunately. As soon as Muhammad ibn Foch returned to the city, he immediately demanded more money as forgiveness from the Jews, and of course, they didn't have enough money to pay what he was asking. So he actually arrested many of the rabbis, the leaders, and some of the of other scholars. He arrested them, and and then he asked for ransom for them. And he also like walked them on the street and hit them with a whip or kick them and stuff like that. He also sent his army, about 300 soldiers, inside houses of Jews to just to terrify them and spread terror and violence, and just to go and to regular houses and look for money that the community owes. And of course, the Jewish community sent quite a lot of messengers to Damascus and also to Istanbul, and asking for the Sultan to come and stop his behavior, because the status quo was that this was actually not legal. But in the Ottoman Empire, basically the officer that the Pasha sent to Jerusalem, he came. Muhammad ibn Fourth just simply gave him bribe, and then he said, "Oh, everything is okay." So the Finns continue like this until July 1625. So in July 1625, Muhammad ibn Fourth, he went to secure some pilgrim convoy going to Mecca. So he had his brother-in-law, Uthman Aga, to rule Jerusalem instead of him. And the first thing that Ottoman Aga did was went to the Jews and demanded money from them, really high amount of money from them. And of course, the Jews were already broke. Of course, they tried to send messengers of their community, both Ashkenazis and both Sephardim, to different Jewish communities in the diaspora and asking for donations. Even though Jews usually used to send every year, they used to send a messenger. This time they sent a bunch of messengers in addition to the messenger that they already sent on a regular basis, because they were poor on a general basis, and they were dependent on donations from Jewish communities in the diaspora anyhow. So Muhammad ibn Prokh just made it even harder for them. And so once he couldn't get the amount of money that he demanded, he simply arrested 15 of the most important Jews in Jerusalem, among them some very important rabbi. One of them was Rabbi Horowitz, a very famous and very important rabbi in the beginning of the 17th century. Yeshayahu Levi Horowitz is called the Shalah. And the Jews, they complained, they managed to collect some money. They end up releasing about 9 of those prisoners, hostages, and the Damascus, the Facha, he sent a messenger. Ottoman Aga simply bribed him, and this situation continued for some time. So in December 1625, Muhammad ibn Prokh returned to Jerusalem, and he took over a cathedral over there, and he killed and maimed some representative of the Facha of Damascus and some other clerks and governors. And of course, he also attacked the Jews, and he asked some money from them. But because he pissed off the Facha of Damascus and also some messengers of the Sultan himself, he was sent to Baghdad for an inquiry on some trial, and he was actually put into jail for a time of 5 months. And again, during that time, his brother-in-law Muhammad Aga was in charge of the city, and of course he was abusing the Jews. He was extorting them. By then, there were some other Jewish messengers coming from the diaspora, bringing very big donations that were generously donated by pious Jews all over the Jewish world, like Europe and North Africa, even Persia and other areas. And all that money simply went directly to Ottoman's Aga pocket. Now, after 5 months, Muhammad ibn Foch, he ran away from jail. He went back to Jerusalem. He came to the cathedral that where Uthman Aga was there, and he simply murdered him and took the money that was collected from the Jews, and he continued to rule Jerusalem for some time. I'm really unscathed. While the Jews were very happy that Ottoman Aga is dead, but Ibn Foch continued with the oppression of the Jews until a rumor that the Fakhr of Damascus is planning to attack him came to his ear, and he ran away and moved to Nablus, and he was allowed to stay in Nablus for 12 years, which he ruled, and of course he brought the city to a complete destruction. But that was the end of the range of terror over the Jews in the city of Jerusalem at that time. So, in conclusion, in the beginning of the 16th century, where a big Jewish community was established in the land of Israel, mainly in the four holy cities, Jerusalem, Hebron, Safed, and later Tiberias, the idea was that those Jewish community, the two Jewish communities, Ashkenazis and Sephardic, will send messengers to the diaspora from time to time, and they will enjoy the generosity and piracy of the communities, and from that they can have some wiggle room in case they get in trouble. But this situation with Muhammad ibn Foch basically completely destroyed the plan of the Jewish communities of how to survive from now and on. And so the Jewish communities in Jerusalem were completely poor, and they were in debt of lots of money in grush, the Turkish, the Ottoman currency, to Christian lenders, to Muslim lenders, all sorts of stuff. And also other Jews that assisted them were also in debt. So the entire system of Jewish life, not just in the land of Israel, also in Egypt and Syria as well, was under very, very pressure of debt because of all that money that was supposed to be paid to Muhammad ibn Foch and also his brother-in-law. And this is one of the reasons that in the 17th century, you will see that all this poverty and this dependency of both Ashkenazi and Sephardi communities in the land of Israel was so stressful that it actually affected them in a spiritual level. And this is what led eventually to the creation of the Messianic movement, the Shabtai movement, Shabtai Tzvi, in the middle of the 17th century, in about the year 1660, something like this, in the land of Israel, he proclaimed to be the Messiah. Okay, now this didn't came in a vacuum. It's because of the poverty, the pressure, this feeling of complete hopelessness. There's no hope, but some divine intervention. The Jews were really praying for some help from, like right now, from a divine intervention to assist them in their daily life. So, and this is what created the messianic pressure, which continue also after that, after the Shabtai movement. There were also movements that were related to that, and this basically create the struggle and the crisis of the Jewish communities in the land of Israel under the Ottoman occupation that eventually brought, in the end, to the creation of modern Zionism. And this is why you need to understand what happened in Jerusalem in the 16th century in order to understand how Zionism was eventually created, because it is related to that. Okay, thank you very much and goodbye.